Sarah Tipton.
Good evening, and thank you very much for coming. Thank you for helping to educate people about the process of hydraulic fracturing and well drilling. I understand that there are something in the neighborhood of 2 million wells that have been hydraulically fractured in the United States. How many of them were hydraulically fractured in this state? And how many are, if you have any information on that, on the production statistics of the wells that have been hydraulically fractured? I know it would be pretty expensive to frack a well and then flood it. You would only fracture the ones you thought had potential of producing.
Okay, as far as how many have been fractured, in Ohio it's estimated that since about the mid-1950s, an estimated 80,000 wells have been fractured in the state of Ohio. The Division of Oil and Gas was formed as a regulatory agency in 1965 and has been overseeing that process since it was formed in that year. As far as production, most wells are fractured to enhance or increase the oil and or gas production. Many of the wells in Ohio and many of the wells across the country, in fact probably the majority of the wells, are not generally considered economic unless they're fractured to enhance the production. The fracturing process opens up the porosity and permeability of a particular well that allows the oil and gas to flow into the well bore and then to the production equipment that's at the surface. How much that increases for each well varies greatly.
Another comment I would like to make is a previous gentleman was talking about individuals' rights being denied. It needs to be considered an individual's correlative rights, that they have the right to produce the oil and gas that may or may not exist on their property. We are blessed in this state with a vast quantity of natural resources, not just oil and natural gas, but coal as well, and people should be able to realize the economic benefits from that.
I wanted to mention, but we ran out of time with the last gentleman. One of the points I mentioned that a drilling unit, when it's submitted to us, has to be of insufficient size or shape. That's one of the criteria. The other criteria in the law is the protection of correlative rights, which is the people that have leased in the unit their opportunity to produce their mineral rights. So, for instance, the law doesn't say, in a 40-acre unit, it doesn't say a certain percentage. We generally use as an internal working guideline 90% of the people in the unit, or in the case of 40 acres, 36 acres at least, and generally it's probably closer to 38. They have to have leases before we'll accept that. For instance, we wouldn't take a mandatory pooling. I'll use the extreme. If only 20 acres were in there and they wanted to pool 20 acres, it typically is a half acre, 3/4 of an acre, maybe 2 acres. And so then part of the tension that we also look at is, if the well can't be drilled anyplace else, what about the 95% of the people that sign leases and want the well? Then we take into consideration the impacted party and their reasons for objecting, and so we consider all these things. It's not an easy or light process, but that is the other side of the coin, and mandatory pooling was created because of spacing, because before there was spacing, I could drill a well on my property line, and then Tom could drill one on his property line, and whoever got there first you would have 2 straws in the same drink, but my straw was there first, so I got most of the drink. Spacing allowed conservation of resources. It allowed spreading of wells apart, but it also recognized when you have spacing, there are going to be times when you can't get 100% unanimous, whatever. And so, therefore, mandatory pooling's in there. But again, as I mentioned, not to totally beat this, but there's due process through the whole process of mandatory pooling.
Thank you.